Before I proceed, I'd like to ask that all remaining time be used for a rebuttal.
Very well.
May I proceed? May it please the court, opposing counsel. Good afternoon. Your Honors, my name is Maya Sims, and I, along with my co-counsel, represent the state of Iowa. In our opening statement, we told you that someone once said, "Great art sometimes takes sacrifice." You now know from the evidence that that person was the defendant, Alan Funt. We know that the defendant is a video director who makes it his mission to capture how unsuspecting bystanders respond to fear, all in the name of his art. He unapologetically pushes the limits at any cost to make sure each scare is bigger than the last, with the hope of capturing raw human emotion. In our opening statement, Mr. Fidosa set forth the elements that the state must prove beyond a reasonable doubt in order to obtain a conviction of involuntary manslaughter. Jury instructions 700.18 and 200.20 provide the direction to set the scene for your analysis. Take 1. On or about the second day of July 2013, defendant recklessly constructed an inherently dangerous device, to wit a fake elevator, and lured Charlene Baskerville to experience intentional and unsuspecting fright, causing her death. Let's break that down and analyze the supporting evidence. First, the defendant admitted that he planned and constructed this fake elevator for the purpose of filming the unsuspecting bystanders who tried to use it. And second, the testimony was replete with the evidence that the defendant lured the Baskervilles into this elevator in 2 specific ways. 1, the Baskervilles were invited to the defendant's office building on July 2nd at 10 a.m. to meet with him in an attempt to settle their differences regarding the ankle injury that Devin Baskerville had received during a prior stunt. Now, although the defendant has tried to convince the court that he was not aware of any such meeting, we contend that his memory loss is not credible, because he directed his staff to do what was necessary in resolving this claim, and it would be extremely coincidental that it took his staff weeks to set up the meeting and that it just so happened to be on the same day as the elevator prank. And 2, the evidence showed that the defendant placed an out-of-order sign on the real elevator, prompting the Baskervilles to use what appeared to be the only other available elevator. The defendant knew that the Baskervilles would use this fake elevator, as Devin Baskerville could not climb stairs with a broken ankle. Your Honors, we have proven beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant lured the Baskervilles into this elevator. Next, the defendant made no apologies for the fact that his video series, Fear Springs Eternal, was produced to intentionally inflict terror upon unsuspecting bystanders and capture their essence of fear for all of the world to see. He certainly accomplished this goal when he lured Charlene Baskerville and her daughter into this elevator and commanded Ashton Michael to unleash terror upon them. Finally, Your Honors, the medical examiner's report, Exhibit 2, confirmed that Ms. Baskerville died from stress cardiomyopathy. Dr. Milgram has stated that she does not dispute the medical examiner's findings, and Dr. Watson testified that this meant that Charlene Baskerville died from a frightening stimuli. In other words, Your Honors, Charlene Baskerville was literally scared to death. The final scene under subsection 1 requires the state to prove that the defendant's behavior was reckless. Jury instructions 200.20 direct the court in this regard. Recklessness is a willful disregard for the safety of others. It is conduct which is consciously done with a willful disregard of the consequences. The act must be highly dangerous, and although the actor does not need to intend that the harm will result, the danger should be reasonably foreseeable. The evidence showed that the defendant pushes the limits in order to make each scare top the last. In doing so, he sacrifices good judgment. For example, he expected his actors to comply with his direction to go big regardless of the consequences, and then criticized those like Ashton Michael who tried to back off when he saw that the stunt was causing distress upon the victim. The defendant was aware that his pranks could be dangerous and cause serious bodily harm, as Devin Baskerville had already been injured in a prior stunt. Furthermore, Officer Straude was called to the scene of several of the defendant's video productions, warning of the dangerous conditions. Even so, the defendant continued to sacrifice this good judgment through bigger traps, all in the name of his art. We ask the court to keep in mind that the defendant is not a novice director who randomly posts his videos to the web. His work is carefully followed and studied by the likes of Dr. Milgram, who admitted to being a big fan. Now, I can't imagine that an expert who studies the culture of fear would give these videos a second look unless she was positive that the defendant truly understood human reactions to fear. This would also have included knowing that a person could be literally scared to death when put into the right situation. Dr. Watson confirmed that stress cardiomyopathy is rare but is well documented, especially when these individuals are placed inside a small enclosed space and experience a frightening stimuli. Based upon this evidence, we assert that the element of recklessness has also been proven. Your Honors, the prosecution has successfully proven subsection 1 of the jury instructions. Take 2. The defendant did the act in a manner likely to cause death or serious injury. Prior injuries, prior warnings, and the defendant's direction to go big regardless of the consequences work collectively to prove this element. We have also successfully proven subsection 2 of the jury instructions. Take 3. By doing the act, the defendant unintentionally caused the death of Charlene Baskerville. The charge of involuntary manslaughter does not require the state to prove intent. We must only prove that because of the act, Charlene Baskerville died. Now, unfortunately, Ashton Michael's performance resulted in a tragic grand finale, ending in Miss Baskerville clutching her chest and gasping for air. The evidence showed that Miss Baskerville did not have any history of heart disease, and that she died because she was literally scared to death in the defendant's production. The prosecution has also successfully proven subsection 3 of the jury instructions. As the prosecution, we confidently bear the burden of proof in this case to provide justice for Charlene Baskerville, as her life should not have been sacrificed for the defendant's art. Please keep in mind that we are not required to prove with absolute certainty that the defendant committed the act of involuntary manslaughter. Instead, Your Honors, we must prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt, and we have done so. Your Honors, the prosecution has proven all of their elements, and we ask that you rule in favor of the state, finding the defendant guilty of the charge of involuntary manslaughter for the death of Charlene Baskerville. Thank you.
Thank you.